Okay, we're driving. I just finished fishing on the Narragawagas, about 1,000 feet up from our property. There's a nice little waterfall, and I saw it because there's like a turnoff. It looks like it must be public land, and there's all these signs that say, "Caution! If you catch an Atlantic salmon, put it back immediately, and try not to fish for them anyway because they're an endangered species." So the water had a brownish tint to it, which I'm guessing has something to do with it was like it looks like trout streams in areas where there's a lot of pine trees. Sometimes during certain times of the year they take on a brownish or kind of ruddy like an iced tea kind of color, but the one thing I did notice was the waterfall, back in Pennsylvania where there's so much fertilizer and just general pollution and sewage runoff. Anywhere there's a waterfall, you get this gross protein scum foam that just stays there for months at a time. They're bacteria colonies, right? Nothing like that here. The water was slightly frothy, but I actually threw my fly over into the froth to see if it was essentially sewage froth, and it wasn't. It was frozen. It was, I guess the bubbles, natural bubbles, kind of froze. So we're driving south on Route 1. We're going to go back through Millbridge, and then we're going to go down to a place called McClellan Park. Gail, the lady I was staying with, said that McClellan Park is really cool because it's a public park that will sort of take you out onto rocks, where you can sort of go out, you're out at the ocean proper and not so much in one of these kind of tidal brackish inlets. So I'm interested in seeing that. I'm going to throw a couple casts out that way, but I'm just going to leave the camera on. Nice lumber and building supply store right here in Millbridge, like 5 minutes away from the house we're looking at. Going back into Millbridge. Incorporated 1848. There was a timber boom, I guess. I think it started with, might have been steamships, which would have been 1830s, 1840s, because that was the kind of era when they were talking about there was a lot of timbering starting here, was just before the Civil War. So I hear Millbridge Theater, National Bank, Shop and Save, so you got a supermarket on the right here. I think that would be the closest supermarket to me, unless there's, I think there's a small one up in Cherryfield, which is about 5 minutes the other direction. Here we have one of these sort of orange and pink, kind of purple houses. There's a fair number of those in Maine because this was traditionally one of the places where gay folks came to escape oppression. Because of the insects in the summertime, people are crazy about certain types of bird houses that control mosquitoes, especially purple martins. I talked at length with the lady last night, and she said one or two good multi-unit purple martin houses will do better than any other high-tech, expensive way of controlling mosquitoes or bite. They have deer flies up here that bite, which we have in Pennsylvania. They're just not as thick. What she said is that purple martins typically eat their body weight in mosquitoes every day, and they are the best thing to have around here. You see their house, you see purple martin houses all over the place. They're the ones with the multiple rooms. Little seafood shack here. Wallace Seafood. Have really very few chains up here. You know, it's not like you get off the highway and it's all, you know, McDonald's, and it's not. People have been extraordinarily nice up here. You know, I've heard that there's down east Mainers can be a little bit cold, but I've not seen any of that. You know, most of my interactions have been with younger people around my age, and you know, they look and talk just like me. You know, it's not like I'm coming up here to a bunch of, you know, people have a level of sophistication that's sort of more Canadian than American, I would say. The house I stayed in was like, you know, if Alex sort of maybe had a little bit more, you know, money or time or interest in a bigger house. But the whole house was decorated with deer pelts, you know, birch bark. The lady collected Le Creuset pots and pans. Okay, let's look to the left here. Here we have the some sort of a. This is where the Narragansett River would be on our left, but that's really the ocean, the bay, I should say. And there's all these beautiful kind of barrier islands too. Back over here. Lobster traps everywhere. You can see people, a lot of people to make extra money do lobstering. You know, it's a good way for a family to pick up an extra, I don't know, 10, 15 grand for summer work. In fact, look at the guy in front of me. They're all lobster traps. So a family might invest, you know, over time, a couple grand in lobster traps and having a simple boat to go and do the collection. And it's a pretty common thing for kids to do before school, to go out with their dad early in the morning, or oftentimes their mom too. You see, there's a lot of female lobster women up here, and fisher women as well. About a mile and a half from McClellan. Saltwater farm on my left, meaning that it's a farm where the land literally goes right up to the ocean. My question is, so the D'Artagnan Company, which is in the Hudson Valley in New York, started by a French person about 40 years ago. They're starting to do an American version of Pré Salé lamb, which is lamb that's grazed on grasslands that abut the saltwater, and they market it as such. It used to be, you know, certain areas of France were the only areas that did that. I wonder if it might be possible to do that here, and I wonder why they're not doing it here. Because, you know, sheep grow well in this kind of climate, and you have these saltwater farms where, you know, everything is so lush because saltwater and the things that are in saltwater, salt aside, are pretty much all that a plant needs to grow and thrive. You know, the most commercial rooting powder and sort of plant hormones, they're all synthetic derivatives of things that were originally naturally found in kelp and other types of seaweeds, but mostly just the simple kelp that you can go, you know, pick up with your hands. See, I wonder also, there's that guy, you know, I buy that special high mineral sea salt for agricultural purposes, and actually I also eat it. But I wonder what the hydrology is around here of the ocean, if there's some really deep water current.